As a capitalist, I got to get that work in. As a capitalist, I got to get that work in. Now, let me tell you about the virtues of communism, socialism, Antifa. Stepan Bandera. Who's this Stepan Bandera? So, I want to just, make a couple comments about Stepan Bandera. I got some biography that I'm going to read. He is a terrible man. He is a terrible man. Stepan Bandera, he participated in the pogroms and the Holocaust. He blamed the Jewish people for Stalinism and communism. But the only thing I'm going to, I'm going to explain how, the Ukrainian people were stuck in a rock and a hard place. And not just like a little rock and a, kind of like a soft, hard place, but like a fucking hard rock and a hard place. In 1932, you had the communists under Stalin that killed 4 million Ukrainians. And the Holodomor, they starved the fucking shit out of them. The Holodomor, you had motherfucking 4 million. Some people said 10 million Ukrainians were starved. So 4 to 10 million Ukrainians? Why was Stalin starving them? Because he wanted their bread. He wanted their grain. And then there was a drought and some other shit that was going on. So he took all their fucking bread and then made it illegal for them to go get their own bread. So this was intentional starvation. It was fucking bullshit. It's also a way for the damn Bolsheviks to get rid of their opposition. Once you had all them peasants that died, well, hell, they're not going to complain no more, are they? So goddamn Stalin and the Bolsheviks killed 4 to 10 million Ukrainians in 1932. Well, that's just right around the corner of 1941. 1939, this is Hitler, right? World War II. So 1932... communists killed, 4 to 10 million. And then Hitler and the Nazis are going to kill 7 million from 1941 to 1945. So when it comes to being a Ukrainian, you got Nazis on the left, you got communists on the right. Both of these are fucking killing people, killing Ukrainians to the goddamn millions. To the millions. You know why Hitler invaded Ukraine? To take their grain. It's a bread basket, right? So they, the soldiers got to eat. When they think of the Ukraine, they think of all those farmers, they think of all that wheat. So both Stalin and the communists wanted to, rape the shit out of Ukraine, and Hitler and the Nazis wanted to rape the shit out of the Ukraine, and they did it. Between the two of them, they killed, 11 million to goddamn 18 million Ukrainians. So you got, millions of reasons to hate Hitler and the Nazis, but you got, a fucking 4 to 10 million reasons to hate Stalin and the Bolsheviks if you're the goddamn Ukrainians. So, when it comes to Stepan Bandera, I want to believe that Stepan Bandera is a Ukrainian. He's a Ukrainian nationalist through and through. The Nazis are going to throw him in jail at first. At first, they want to take Ukraine for themselves, but he's like, hey, what about an independent Ukraine? So they throw him in jail, and then 2 years later, they release him in hopes that they can win the war or win some of the people back over. So what Ukraine needs is basically a purebred who's not a communist, not a Nazi, some hero in their history for them to celebrate that's not tainted. Because Bandera, while he's a Ukrainian through and through, like I said, I want to believe that he's a Ukrainian nationalist and that he was playing one empire against the other. Remember when America was fighting against Britain and France gave us money so we could fight against, their enemies? So we were the Vietnam, we were the proxy war between these two great powers. So was it smart that America was, fucking over Britain while getting France's help and basically playing these great powers off of one another? Yeah, we became our own country, we became our own nation because we did that. That's what Ukraine is right now, fighting their revolutionary war for independence, fighting against their imperialist oppressor right fucking now. So what I want is like a Superman to emerge out of Ukraine that's got a nice, rainbow coalition instead of like a fucking communist or a Nazi. Because both the communists and the Nazis are killing the shit out of the Ukrainians. So what you need is a strong Ukrainian that has some conservative views, some liberal views, none extreme, none too far. So whereas people will say Stepan Bandera, well, he's a Nazi. He did eventually, participate in the pogroms and the Holocaust, but he was also arrested by the Nazis. Stepan Bandera was arrested by the Nazis. I want to say 1942 for 2 fucking years. So for 2 fucking years, he's sitting in the jail of the goddamn Nazis. How can he be a Nazi when he's being jailed by the Nazis? After being jailed for so long, you're going to have Stockholm Syndrome, and then hell is probably, it's probably hell being a lone revolutionary out there, and then he's going to get, he's part with these intelligence agencies in Germany. He thinks he's going to go back to Ukraine to topple and win Ukraine back, but it turns out that the Western German intelligence services was chock full of KGB agents, and then they're going to kill him. They're going to kill Stepan Bandera before he goes back to Ukraine to rescue Ukraine. So we don't actually get to see what he would have done, right? So I want to say his legacy was he lost, right? He wanted to have an independent Ukraine. He got jailed in, Germany. They tried to use him as a tool. He's sitting there, wanting to go back, and then the KGB eventually kills him. So he lost, right? He fucking lost. He also participated in the pogroms, the Holocaust, so he's an anti-Semite. Karl Marx was an anti-Semite too. But then also, I want to say Alexander II, Sweden, I don't know. There's, maybe it was Bandera. He was blaming Stalinism and communism. He was saying that they were using, but Marx was anti-Semitic. Anyways. And also, fucking Hitler's like, what if Hitler would have won? Then this motherfucker, would have, the winners dictate history, and, they get to paint up the new global order. So Bandera would have been part of so he, made a bad gamble, right? But I want to believe that he's this Ukrainian nationalist and he's playing these powers, the USSR and the Nazi Germany against one another. But ultimately lost, right? He played a bad hand of poker, and he wound up getting killed by the KGB. And so I can understand if you're a Ukrainian, you need to find a national figure that you can rally behind. I think Stepan Bandera is a compromise figure. I'm not going to say all of Ukrainians liked him, but there's that one woman that got raped, and they were sitting there calling her like a banderista or some shit. The enemy of your enemy is your friend. So when Bandera played the major powers against one another, if I'm a Ukrainian, fuck the Nazis, fuck the communists. So where does that leave me? And basically, you get to develop your own ideology, right? Not too far left, not too far right. Just fucking right, just perfect. And Stepan Bandera, he did not have a just perfect ideology, not in the goddamn least. So, fuck Stepan Bandera. I'm just giving you the background for why with the Ukrainian people, it's not like they said, Stepan Bandera? That great Nazi? God, we love that great Nazi. It's not the Nazi part. The element that they like is that he was a Ukrainian nationalist. When the Soviet Union wanted to crush Ukraine, he said, fuck you guys. When the Nazis wanted to crush Ukraine, he said, fuck you guys. He got thrown in jail because he said, hey, Hitler, nah, you gotta turn Ukraine independent. Oh, is that what you think, huh? Get in the fucking jail, motherfucker. So he was the enemies of the Nazis and the USSR. And, he did eventually collaborate with the Nazis, participated in some pogroms and Holocaust, and totally tainted the fuck out of his legacy. He's going to get shot and killed by the KGB without ever, seeing his dream of a independent Ukraine come to fruition. The only reason the Soviet Union kept Ukraine as Ukrainian is because the nationalist movement was strong enough to keep Ukraine Ukrainian. Wherever there was separatist movements that were weak, the Soviets just, walked right over them. But the Ukrainian nationalist movement, they did try to fight them. They, killed a bunch of the independent movement people in Ukraine, and they exiled a bunch of independent movement people in Ukraine. There's a big-ass list I had up for the longest time. But, just a list of like 100 Ukrainians who wanted to be independent, had an independent Ukraine, but the USSR said, fuck you. So the Bolsheviks in the Ukraine have a mixed legacy. The Bolsheviks try to wipe them all out, but the Ukraine is also a founding member of the USSR. Because of their own identity, they were like the first, nation state to join in the republic or the union of the federal, Russia and Ukraine together forever. So the Soviets adopted Ukraine as a member state of the USSR. They're trying to quash Ukraine, and then they're trying to increase Ukrainian nationalists. they got a mixed legacy, but fucking 10 million killed, that's... If I'm a Ukrainian, fuck the Nazis, fuck the communists for life. Fuck all you fucking Nazi communist motherfuckers. No, fuck you Nazi communist motherfuckers. And when I say fuck you Nazi communist motherfuckers, fuck Stepan Bandera. He turned Nazi. He didn't have to, but he did. And so, where he could have been, he's an independent movement guy. Nope, he's a fucking Nazi. Western journalists traveled to Kyiv in late 2013 to cover the Euromaidan protest. They encountered a historical figure few recognized, Stepan Bandera. His youthful black and white image was seemingly everywhere on barricades over the entrance to Kyiv City Hall, on the placards held by demonstrators calling for the overthrow of then-President Viktor Yanukovych. Bandera was evidently a nationalist of some sort, highly controversial. The Russians said he was a fascist anti-Semite. Western media says that's just Moscow propaganda. But Bandera was a piece of shit. He had, maybe a tactical relationship with tactical relationship with Nazi Germany. Maybe he would actually like the Nazis by the end. He was arrested by them for 2 years, but Stockholm Syndrome's a motherfucker. In the eyes of many historians, certainly Western Ukrainians, foreign policy dismissed Bandera's Moscow's favorite boogeyman, a metonym for all bad things Ukrainian. So Bandera was accused of committing atrocities against the Polish people and the Jewish people. He did all those things. So yeah, Ukraine, do not fucking hold Stepan Bandera up as a goddamn hero. I mean, in his youth, hold his younger self up as a fucking hero, maybe. But even then, I think he was an anti-Semite the whole fucking time. So I guarantee you there's a lot better Ukrainian nationalists that were better than him. I guarantee you. He's going to start the organization of Ukrainian Nationalist. So he was all about just, Ukrainian nationalism. But he took a lot of different weird fucking steps in order to, for that ends. Do the means justify the ends? He used his growing influence to steer an already violent group in an even more extreme direction. In 1933, he organized an attack on the Soviet consul in Lviv, which only managed to kill an office secretary. A year later, he directed the assassination of the Polish Minister of the Interior. He ordered the execution of a pair of alleged informers, and he was responsible for other deaths as well as the OUN took to robbing banks and post office, police stations, private households in search of funds. The Polish-controlled western half was incorporated into the newly established Republic of Poland in 1918. The Ukrainian-dominated eastern portion, where Stepan Bandera was born in 1909, was not absorbed until 1921, following the Polish-Soviet War and a brief period of independence. So Poland just immediately becomes part of the Soviet Union? Is that what we're saying? But they just bowed down. All right, fine, USSR. But when it came to, Ukraine, it took them a while until 1921. It wasn't just an immediate thing, an immediate turnaround. There was a brief period of independence. The Ukrainian people wanted their own damn country. It's a poor fit from the start. Bitter at being deprived of a state of their own, Ukrainian nationalists refused to recognize the takeover. In 1922, they responded with a campaign of arson attacks on some 2,200 Polish-owned farms. So the USSR is going to take over the Ukraine, and the people aren't having it. The Ukrainian nationalists are pissed, and so they're, resisting in different violent terrorist ways. They're going to arson attack 2,200 Polish-owned farms. The government in Warsaw replied with repression and cultural warfare. It brought in Polish farmers. Many of them war veterans to settle the district, radically change the demographics of the countryside. So they're trying to, fucking genocide the culture of Ukraine. Well, we're just going to get a bunch of Polish people in here, Polish veterans and farmers, and take over the Ukraine. They close the Ukrainian schools down. They try to ban the term Ukrainian, insisting that the students employ the somewhat more vague Ruthian. You're not Ukrainian, you're a Ruthian. Now you're like a little Russia, a Ruthian, not real Russia, but like a little Russia Junior. Late 1938, as many as 30,000 Ukrainians were languishing in Polish jails. Soon, Polish politicians were talking about the extermination of the Ukrainians, while German Journalists who traveled through eastern Galicia in early 1939 reported that the local Ukrainians were calling for Uncle Fuhrer to step in and impose a solution of his own on the Poles. Hitler said, "I need the Ukraine in order that no one is able to starve us again like in the last war," he declared August 1939. So Hitler and the Nazis just want to take their grain too. Grain seizures on such a scale would mean condemning vast numbers of Ukrainians to die of starvation. 25 million or more total. So he didn't give a shit about 25 million Ukrainians in 1939. Centrist, they began by placating the fascists, then they turn around and end up being wound up at their mercy. So I hope that's not the case. When Nazi Germany invaded the Soviet Union, he prepared the June 30th, 1941 proclamation of Ukrainian statehood in Lviv, pledging to work with Nazi Germany. Stepan Bandera, for his refusal to rescind the decree, Stepan Bandera was arrested by the Gestapo, which put him under house arrest July 5th, 1941, and later between 1942 and 1943, sent him to the Sachsenhausen concentration camp in 1944, with Germany rapidly losing ground in the war in the face of advancing Allied armies. Stepan Bandera was released in the hope that he would be instrumental in deterring the advancing Soviet forces. He set up headquarters of the reestablished Ukrainian Supreme Liberation Council, which worked underground. He settled with his family in West Germany. He remained the leader of the OUNB and worked with several anti-communist organizations, such as the Anti-Bolshevik Bloc of Nations, as well as with British intelligence agencies. 14 years later, after the end of the war, Bandera was assassinated in 1959 by KGB agents in Munich. Some Ukrainians hail him as a liberator who fought against the Soviet, Polish, and Nazi states while trying to establish an independent Ukraine, while other Ukrainians condemn him as a fascist and a war criminal who was, together with his followers, largely responsible for the massacres of Polish civilians and partially for the Holocaust in Ukraine. So fuck Stepan Bandera. Fuck Stepan Bandera. The elements of the Ukrainian nationalism I think you can like and keep. But the reason why you do that is to find a better hero. Ukraine, I guarantee you there's a nationalist Ukrainian figure that wasn't a communist asshole fucking you over or a Nazi asshole fucking you over. I guarantee you there was a Ukrainian that was just fucking badass motherfucker through and through. From jump to end, from start to the great grand finale.